Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. So in this video we are going to take a close look at the Anbenic Air Plus. This is a compact designed Windows X86 device. Comes with pre-installed Windows 11. It comes with the AMD Ryzen 7 6800U. It also has 16GB of RAM and 512GB of internal storage. So I find it a very interesting thing to check out, and the main reason I have checked out the bigger model, and that one was quite powerful and had a lot of option when it comes to specifically for emulation and also like AAA gaming. But this device is smaller and it comes with some different problems than I had with the bigger one. So first of all, we're going to talk about everything that we're going to get with it. This comes with a quick charger, just your normal quick charger, 65 watts, nothing really fancy. Inside the box, we're going to get every single necessary piece of hardware that we're going to need. Think about Type-C to USB, but also, I'm not going to get this thing out, but you're getting the point. We're going to get ourselves the adapters. Everything will be delivered with the Anbenic Plus. In here, we're going to get ourselves the cables that we're going to get. We don't get every single cable. We do have only one of them, so you need to purchase a couple of them more if you want to have different configurations. Think about a Type-C to Type-C or USB to Type-C. But everything that we're going to need for plugging it in, charging it up, it will be here. The presentation of the Anbenic Air Plus is absolutely amazing. I really loved what they're doing over here. It just gives me like this premium feeling. Every single manual is in here, so if you have any questions, read the manuals. I personally don't do that most of the time, but here you will find every single information that you're going to need, how to set it up and how everything works. The Anbenic device is absolutely compact when you're looking at the previous model. Later on we're also going to do side-by-side comparisons. And I must say, the first impression when holding it in my hand, this thing is very comfortable, but does come with a very nice weight to it, or a nice weight. We're going to need to go to the gym back because, oh man, I'm going to need it. Lift some weights because this thing is quite heavy compared with your typical Android device. But let's talk about the product itself and the overall quality and what is my personal experience when it comes to this device. First of all, I find it quite fascinating that this device is so small form factor and still has the capabilities to run a lot of different games. But one of the downsides you're going to get with a smaller device is a smaller battery. And that is something that I found a little bit of the biggest bummer that we're going to find when it comes to this new Anbenic model. So while holding this handheld in my hands, I must say that feels quite comfortable. That's my first, thing that I already noticed. And the overall quality is similar to all the other products I've reviewed in the past. So one of the things that I find very cool with Anbenic is just the form factor, especially the back. The gives us just a very nice, comfortable way to play. And part basically over here at the side where I can leave my fingers in and give this thing a very stable and very comfortable way to play. But there were some things that I do find a little bit interesting compared with all the other models. The configuration is similar to the previous models of the Anbenic, only the buttons have been placed in a different position. So when it comes to Anbenic, and it is similar to the Nintendo Switch, you do have these very tiny buttons. And to be honest, I am not the biggest fan of them, but they're not like super bad or uncomfortable. What is also very interesting is the joystick they're using. You can see at the side they have these extra rubber compound with a grip, and that's very comfortable. The form factor is absolutely great, but what I noticed is it does have like a very nice tension to it when it comes to the travel, but also the travel is quite short. So the overall experience is quite different when looking at different handhelds I've reviewed. The overall quality of the buttons is absolutely great. That the form factor, yeah, it's tiny, that's one thing to be sure, and comparing them with my very thick fat finger, yeah, it's not going to be the most comfortable thing to play. But when you're pressing it, you can just feel these long travel membrane buttons are very nice. Another part I personally really liked about this new Anbenic is just the D-pad and how it feels and plays. It has a very nice, really cool smushy effect to it. I really love how this actually plays. It does like a very long travel, but I can tell you, playing fighting games, I had no problems whatsoever. And underneath they made a decision to put all the other buttons where we have different and bigger models, they put them mostly at the side over here. It's not a big of a deal, they give it a different position, and these buttons are pressing start, select, and of course bringing on the Anbenic menu itself. But what are we actually going to get more? At the bottom we're going to get ourselves different connections and the stereo speakers. To begin with, the stereo speakers, they sound absolutely amazing. But it is what quite interesting is that they're not forward facing like tiny speakers, and they still sound absolutely amazing. Most of the time I put around 80% volume to get the best experience. At the bottom we're going to get ourselves the jack and the Type-C connection, and we do have the option to expand the memory or basically add another memory. And I can tell you, you're going to need it because the 512GB is absolutely not enough. At the top I'm going to find another Type-C connection, volume control, an on-off switch, and of course you're having the exhaust over here. I'm going to give you an example how loud the fan will go if you're going to get into the maximum performance of the device itself. And here we're going to find the fan itself, and here we're going to get yourself the fresh air for cooling the device. The biggest downside I find already is that we're only having 2 connections or Type-Cs to connect ourselves hardware. It's a little bit of a bummer, but there is a way around it. But also let's talk about what kind of stuff that we're going to need for setting it up, and makes this way more easier to do. Alright, so next up let's plug in the Type-C connection, because we're going to charge it. That is something you're going to do a lot with this device because the battery life is quite of a bummer. But I really love the LEDs underneath the joysticks. It will indicate that the system is charging. Charging time is not very long, but the same goes also for the battery life. So when looking at the device itself and checking out how much wattage you're going to need for a certain game, the battery life is not great. I think that is the biggest downfalls of these, let's say, smaller models. Less space, more heat, and we're just going to get a less lifespan when it comes to the battery. But let's boot it up and talk about the software and what you can do with it. So to begin with, it's a very easy navigation when it comes to a combination of the touchscreen. Already mentioned before, I recommend using a physical keyboard and mouse for setting everything up. So this is the Agent Neo, the program they're getting with the device itself. This is more like an all-in-one product than what you're going to get with the product and software combined. You can just easily like boot up your games. When clicking on it, will automatically boot up into, let's say, the Steam. You do have some cool like backgrounds that automatically will be downloaded. Let's start with Dirt 5. So this is a particular game that you need to tweak getting this on the go ready. So first of all, I have set it to the full HD, or better said 1080p resolution, but beside that every single settings have been set to low, or better said very low. But what you're going to get, this game still looks amazing in my opinion, and we're going to get ourselves like a 48, 50 FPS, even like peaks to 60 sometimes. So it's still playable, and we can just enjoy this on the go. But take consideration, we're using the maximum wattage over here, and oh boy, this thing sounds like a vacuum cleaner. So one of the things I'm going to play a lot on this device is just indie games. One of the reasons is because it doesn't need a lot of wattage and the power from the device. So I think this is so much more convenient. You can play longer sessions, and in my opinion it looks just great. Another thing is the D-pad. I love it. Just going to be honest, I love this freaking D-pad. It is so very comfortable to play when it comes to these games. It's even more an old school retro feeling than the analog stick. But both have been placed in a very good position. So when it comes to Tekken 7, just wanted to see how far we can push this machine. The reason why is very simple. In the previous videos I tested out different kind of Neo products, and I noticed that you could play them on full 60 FPS. And with this tinier model I did see some minor dips all the way down to 45. A little bit bummer, in my opinion it's still playable. You can tweak the settings. Now it has been set to full HD and even having the option to all settings set to high. So there is still room for improvement, or better said improvement, when it comes to like tweaking the game itself. So that is a positive thing, but this game is playable with some tweaks in the end. Mainly I will use this device for older fighting games, but also indie games, simply because they run absolutely great on here. This weird game doesn't even support the full HD resolution, but it comes close and it does look amazing. Oh man, mess it up. Nevertheless, it does have a great performance and I can really enjoy some Mortal Kombat on here. where I love myself some AAA games here on this device to bring with me. I think mainly it's just a very cool device to play some old school indie games and put them on full HD resolution and the best graphics you can get. Another thing you can do when it comes to the ANIO, you can just basically get it all the way to Pro mode maybe. And the reason why, you don't need the extreme power of the device itself to run these indie games. So that's going to be way more convenient if you just want to play for a longer session. But in the end, when you're looking at this new compact model, it has a lot of power. When you're looking at the previous model I've reviewed, the 6000 series is not bad at all. You can play even some AAA games, but it comes with a price simply because you're looking at the size, how compact it is and how hot it gets. Especially when you're touching the LCD, you can just feel it. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, hit the little bell, and it would be great to see you in the next video.